All right, we're live. It's another week. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Atlanta. It's Monday morning, a little earlier than the BBC usually operates. Not the British guys, it's the Brent Broadcasting Channel here. And I'm really excited to be here early on a Monday morning because I have a great guest with me. He is Hayden Stafford. He is the president of global client engagement for Pega. And he's a guy that I've had an opportunity to speak with numerous times over the years, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you. So, Hayden, thanks to you for joining me, man.
Hey, Brent, thank you. And, last time I spoke to you, I think it was about 5 or 6 months ago with you and Paul. And I am almost a year into the gig now. So have a little bit more substance to talk about since we last spoke.
That's right. You are coming up on almost exactly a year because you started, May or June of last year?
Yeah, I left Microsoft on April 30th and I joined Pega on June 1st. So, and it was my first day. It was PegaWorld, Inspire,
Nice.
and then we're moved PegaWorld forward a month. So that's next week, a week from tomorrow. So it feels like just about a year.
So your first thing was to go to PegaWorld, but this year you're actually on the Keynote stage.
That's right.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about the first year. I mean, what stood out to you the first year at Pega? Because it's not only your first year, but you joined Pega in the heart of the pandemic.
Yeah, a little memo to your listeners. Not that I at all regret coming here. In fact, I'm thrilled that I did that. But don't join a new company in a senior leadership role during a pandemic. It's pretty amazing. You might remember when we spoke. I've only met Alan once. Alan is our owner, founder, CEO. I never met him through the interview process. Nobody. I met nobody during the interview process. And since then, I started speaking to him in March of 2020. And here we are in April of 2021. I've only met him once. It was last July. My team, the people that report directly up to me, I've only met some of them once. Others, because we've got a lot of new leaders here at Pega, I've never met. So it's certainly a challenge, leading and executing in a world where you've never met anyone. There's no dinners, there's no, coffees together, all virtual. It's a hell of an experience, to say the least.
So what are you looking forward to most about your keynote during this year's PegaWorld?
Yeah, well, last year I got a very brief intro. Hey, hello, I'm new. I was excited to be here. This year, for those of you that didn't join last year, much like many other companies, it was a shotgun wedding in terms of going from the concept of a live event in February to a completely virtual event in June. I think we did a good job. I think it was a really good virtual event. And, it used to be a full 1.5 days event, 1.5 day event. We've compressed that down to 2.5 hours. And I really love the format that we're taking this year. First of all, Don Sherman is a stud, I have to say. He's a stud. So Don, shout out to you. He's a great MC, a great host of the event. We have some really cool imagery and kind of digital work embedded within the program that streamlines and threads through the entire event, and it's all kicked off by Don. What I like about it is we've structured it really around 4 key points. PegaWorld is around who we are, and Alan will be leading that with his keynote, and then it's over to me about what we do. So I will be kicking off what it is that we do, our products, our services, and 3 great customer examples: Pfizer, Wells Fargo, and a not-for-profit called Step Change. Pfizer will be addressing how they use intelligent automation. Step Change will be talking about their customer service platform. And Wells Fargo, who are using our one-to-one customer decision hub. Then after that, we jump into how we do it. So who we are, what we do, and how we do it. And that'll be from Karim, a deep dive into our products, our new launches, some really exciting stuff around intelligence, really embedded in intelligent automation. And then finally, where we're going. Don Sherman will be leading kind of tech trends, emerging tech trends, and the future of our technology. And interspersed throughout all this, Brent, are some great self-guided demos, customer success stories, as well as Pega-led sessions. And of course, it wouldn't be a PegaWorld event if we didn't have some live entertainment. You might remember last year, we had the Dropkick Murphys with special guests from Bruce Springsteen. We've got some good stuff in store for this year.
You know, since you brought up the entertainment part, I have to say, man, it would be so cool. I know this probably isn't going to happen, but it would be so cool to see the layer cakes up there ripping it, you know, because those guys, I mean, you kind of, the last time you were on with me and Paul Greenberg on the Players, you mentioned, this is before we did the BYOB event, but it was in the works. And you mentioned, you know, the layer cakes, they got a couple of lead singers that are just awesome.
Oh yeah.
And you know what? I didn't know one of those awesome lead singers was going to be, you know, one of our buddies, man, Jeff Nicholson. I mean, I didn't know he had the pipes like that, to be quite honest with you.
Oh my, and Zoma as well.
Yeah.
He's got pipes as well. And you know, what would we be without Don's kick-ass rhythm guitar and then the lead out of Tom Libretto? I think that BYOB was, first of all, kudos to you and Paul. It was unbelievable. I listened to every one of the submissions. Of course, I'm a little biased towards the layer. And you know what? We may very well be starting, as Don called it, an LLC, local layer cakes, local franchises. We just hired a new leader in Japan who's a phenomenal drummer. And so, you know, we're thinking about maybe expanding this a little bit, having local version of the layer cakes.
Wow. Now that is cool. You guys started something. I just wonder if they'll each have a drone and a yacht to play on, but that's besides the point. Hey, so we talked with you about 6 months ago on the Players. You're still, you know, new into the gig.
Yeah.
But I did want to play a clip from that because it kind of leads into my next question. So let me pop this up and let you check it out.
Okay.
We're not a partner company, really. This company is all about partners go deliver. The concept of building on the platform, integrating into the platform from an ISV standpoint, and SIs building IP on the platform, that doesn't exist. And you wouldn't believe, on this call, we published this this town hall 2 weeks ago. We had 1,900 partners sign up for it in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And we had close to 1,000 attend today.
Wow.
They're hungry for the vision. Now what we have to do is turn that on. You know, from a co-development standpoint, a co-sell standpoint, and a delivery standpoint. That's my plan. That's the number one growth lever for us, and I'm going to turn that on. That's a big force multiplier for us that hasn't been tapped yet.
Well, so that's your biggest.
All right, you had Paul really intrigued because all the wow and ohs, which is always a cool thing to hear from him. But so that was 6 months ago. How are things looking in that area?
You know, as I said on that call, partners are really a force multiplier for us. And it's so evident in terms of their build revenue against our license revenue. I mean, it's a huge multiple. Partners can make a great ton of money by working with Pega, but more specifically, they can do so much value for our customers if we work together as opposed to work separately to work together. And I'll tell you, Brent, I'm delighted to see that video because that element of our strategy is starting to fire. You know, we had our first ever partner sales kickoff. So we had our sales kickoff in early January. The following week, we did a partner sales kickoff. Never did that before. Very similar content, very similar messaging. And next year, we will move to an integrated sales and partner kickoff during the same week. You know, for me, our partners are really an extension of our own company. And, you know, I talked in the podcast with you and Paul a couple months ago about the 5 levers of growth that I really saw for Pega as I did my listening tour in the first 45 days. And one of those key levers is a partner-centric mentality. And that doesn't mean just delivery. That means developing product together. That means selling together. That means innovating together. And it is as true now, Brent, as it was then, if not more. In fact, our sourced pipeline revenue, I just sat through today, this morning, our America's partner QBR, our quarterly business review, and the amount of sourced revenue, that means sell with, our partners selling our product, our licenses, is through the roof. Our fifth worst or fifth best partner is at 375%. So there's 4 more above that partner. So there's still a ton of work to be done. In particular, some of our segments, some of our industries that we sell to is what we're called partner powered. And in others like banking and telcos, that's Pega powered. These partner powered segments still need a little bit of work, but Brent, you know, the amount of money we're putting into co-marketing, the amount of money that we're putting into just marketing to and with our partners, we've hired a tremendous amount of partner sellers and partner development folks. We brought in senior leaders from ServiceNow, Adobe, IBM, Microsoft to lead these segments. To say that we're all in on partners is a huge, huge understatement.
When you think about kind of the big picture of what happened in the pandemic, it feels like we're getting closer to the end. How has this whole experience kind of changed your approach to, you know, business and building up partnerships, or has it? I might be making the assumption, but I'm just curious if it hasn't had any kind of impact on how you go about doing these things. Yeah. How has it changed you?
It's hard. I'm sure as every listener yourself, you know, doing anything during the pandemic is hard. But, you know, on this theme of partners, I got to tell you, you take little things for granted in life. And I had my first work dinner 2 weeks ago. Went out to dinner for work, and it was with a partner. Greg Serafin from Ernst & Young was in town. He's the global alliances leader for All Up EY. He was in town, and I said, hey, you're in town. I live here. Let's meet. We went out to dinner, and that was so nice. Face-to-face contact, being able to have a glass of wine and a nice steak at a restaurant and talk a little business and a little personal. It was so nice. But, you know, the thing that I think we struggle with and everyone struggles with is that intimacy, that the message between the lines. And that's, you know, what you get by just spending time with people in a subway, in a cab, on an airplane, at dinner, over coffee. And that's tough. You know, being new to the company, Brent, my title gives me permission to get what I, you know, want to get done within the business. But I think about all the new hires we've had. You know, I talked about my experience of onboarding. We've brought in a tremendous amount of senior leaders that report into me. We've brought in a tremendous amount of sales directors and AEs. My God, you know, you got to lead with empathy here and understand how these people are onboarding and needing to learn Pega, their role, and to meet new customers. Incredibly difficult. So as I lead in a pandemic and we have the results that we do, it's all about really amplifying the celebration of success. You know, myself and the America's sales leader, who's brand new, we brought her in from IBM. We meet with the teams after they do a deal. And when they close it, we meet. We do a meet up and raise a toast online. And then, you know, so you celebrate the success, but you've got to manage your constructive criticism and your feedback in such a way that it's got kind of an iron fist wrapped in a silk glove, in that, you know, we're all struggling. We're all having a hard time with this. You can't take the hard approach maybe that you might have taken in a non-pandemic time. So it's really about finding balance and bringing empathy into everything you do.
Now that word empathy, I've heard a lot over the last 2 years with Pega because of the empathy advisor that went into the platform. But it feels like empathy has been the most required trait over the pandemic itself. When you think about,
I would add one other word.
Okay. Sure.
Clarity. When you don't have the chance to be together in the office, you've got to have such acute clarity on what your messaging is and what you want the team to do, and reinforce it. You know, You walk into an office and there's posters all over the walls that say, your catch line, your mission statement, whatever it is that you're trying to do. We don't have that. So clarity is also an important word that goes along there, Brent.
That's actually a great addition. I hadn't thought about it, but you're so right. Let's talk about a word that's been bandied around, or I guess that's two words. It's been bandied around over the last several years, digital transformation. How is, I know it's accelerated. Everybody you talk to, the pandemic caused us to move faster on our digital transformation efforts. But can you talk about how the pandemic has forced not only the acceleration of the digital transformation, but changing, what the definition, what it means going forward, and how different it is compared to what it was pre-pandemic?
That's a really good question, and I think we could do a whole podcast of just that, Brent. 2 years ago, I think a lot of people thought it was just a concept. Digital transformation, that means selling more technology and embracing more technology and using more. But it has become so much more around the way we interact, the way we do work, the way we communicate. If there is a bright or a silver lining around this dark cloud of the pandemic, it has forced companies to innovate. And it has forced technology providers like Pega to innovate along with them at a rate and a pace that I don't think anyone ever anticipated happening. I'll give you an example. Some of the solutions that we're building today, we're delivering them remotely, and we're delivering them in weeks, not months, not years. We're delivering them in weeks. And some of the impact that these things are having. I spoke with the CIO of one of the largest healthcare provider in the country, in the United States. And what he said about what Pega did with them, he quote said, "as close to a religious experience with technology as we've ever had," unquote. Because we were able to address a problem, which was vaccination management within their healthcare network for employees and for patients. And we're able to do that almost overnight, within a week. I think it was within 11 days. That's digital transformation. The ability to see a need, innovate, and deliver quickly and do it remotely. The days of all that cost of travel and being on site, while a lot of it is necessary, I think companies are finding that it's not entirely necessary, and that if we just communicate, we elaborate on our needs and expectations, we have empathy for our clients and our clients' clients, a lot of amazing things can happen. The pace of digital transformation has been stunning, nothing short of stunning.
So it feels like we're getting closer and closer to the end of
I hope so.
Pandemic. I really do hope so too. So how much of the forced changes that happened because of all the things we had to do to shut down and the hunker in place and remote work, how much of these changes are permanent changes to the way that business will be done after we get past this?
If I could answer this one, I might be called Nostradamus. But I think a good deal of it is here to stay for at least a year to 2 years. I think you've got a large portion of the population, especially outside the US, that's not vaccinated. And in terms of business travel, I can tell you that's going to change. No doubt. I mean, we're planning for that. I do look forward to having a PegaWorld as an example live. But I think the expectations of where you work, how you work, and when you work, that's going to stay for a long time. Meaning no longer the need to go into an office every day. No longer a need to work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 7 till 7, whatever the case may be. But working at your pace to get the job done. And at the time that you need to be able to satisfy the needs of your family and friends, etc. But I'll tell you some things that will change. I think for sure that are going to change is the need for intimacy with people and clients and customers. So that's going to continue to put demands on the business, demands on time, demands on technology to continue to innovate and drive speed of change and being able to keep up with the pace of society at the speed of digital transformation. So in summary, Brent, I think a lot of it's going to stay, but I think, like all human beings, it'll be in the rearview mirror at some point, hopefully, and we'll get back to the ways in which we have lived in the past, but we'll act and work smarter, no doubt about it. And in particular, just in business space, you look at what Google and Amazon and Salesforce have said recently. We, Pega, we're changing our footprint with our facilities and our corporate headquarters in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So it's certainly going to change the dynamic of where we work and how we work there.
It almost feels like that term intimacy, it goes for, or empathy and intimacy kind of go hand in hand with, working with employees, working with partners, and working with customers. Does the need for intimacy, has that actually increased because of what we all went through?
Oh, no doubt. And that's something that's going to stay. I think this has changed. Just what I just said about that dinner with the EY partner. I think that sense of needing to get closer to people when you have that opportunity and embracing it and, really taking advantage of that time, I think people are going to really have a different point of view around that intimacy. Intimacy meaning face-to-face, shaking hands, maybe giving a hug to somebody. That absolutely took a back seat in the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months of the pandemic. And people are realizing that that's the fuel of society. That's the fuel of business. That's the fuel of relationships and partners is intimacy. So maintaining that, what we've been able to do here over the last several months, now that the vaccine has started to land, it's just going to accelerate.
I think that's great. I remember having conversations early on in the pandemic with businesses, and one of the things that kind of came out was this whole idea of, when the chips are down, which they most certainly were for a lot of people and companies, it was the companies that stood in the corner that said, hey, we know you can't, afford us right now, but how can we help you? And it seems like those companies who were able to keep connected in a meaningful way, even though, their customers were hurting and couldn't afford their service at the moment, they found ways to stay connected and meaningfully connected to the point where you can imagine how much that meant to their customer, so that even after the hard times have passed, the relationship has been solidified because when the chips were down, you guys were there for us.
You double down on them. We have a great example of that, Brent, here at Pega, with one of the world's largest and certainly one of the top 3 airlines in the United States. I mean, an airline. They weren't spending much money. They didn't have a lot of money. They have very few riders. We restructured some contracts with them and even got them new technology at a level that was below their previous commitments. So they were able to get more, extend longer at a lower cost, because we understood the position that they were in. And that's what partners do. They support one another. And the other thing that I've learned through the pandemic in a big way is you never know what someone else is going through. When someone cancels a meeting or they say no, typically, the pessimist in you might be like, wow, they don't like us or they don't like what we're doing. No, people and companies have a lot of other agendas going right now. And back to that empathy word, not that I'm trying to drive that here, but just there's a lot going on that we don't know about. What's happening at that airline? We certainly have a good idea, but we have no idea really as a vendor to them. And to that person that canceled at the last minute for a meeting, we don't know. And I think this pandemic has really given us an appreciation for stepping back, giving people space, and giving them a little bit of room to make changes and decisions.
Hayden, this has been a great conversation. I have to put up, we have a comment from our mutual friend here. you, you are one for understatement. So the partner news is fantastic. Yeah. Well, you knew.
Good to see you.
You knew he would, by playing that clip again. You could see how his reaction while you were talking was great. And of course, now the comment sort of backs that up. But it's been a full pleasure talking with you, Hayden. And tell us again a little bit more about what you're going to be talking about next week.
Yeah, so it's going to be all about clients, and Pega technology and how it can solve clients' needs. And so we're going to spend quite a bit of time on who we are, what we do, how we do it, and where we're going. Some great visual effects, some great technology that we're showcasing, and of course, clients talking about their customers, the value they've seen from Pega. For me, it's all got to be in the client's voice. It's all got to be in the client's value, perception of value. So what you'll see throughout this is client testimonials, use cases, value propositions threaded throughout PegaWorld.
And that's next Tuesday, May 4th.
Tuesday, absolutely.
9 to 11:30, right? East Coast time?
That is absolutely correct. And hey, it's free. So all of you need to get out there and sign up. If anything, to see my 8 minutes of fame. That's the other thing about PegaWorld and all virtual events. You compress those 45-minute stage time down to 8 minutes. So the pandemic has taught us to be much more succinct.
Well, as Don Shermer once said, it's taught him to go from theatrical to cinematic.
That's absolutely true. I've heard that. I think he said that on one of your programs. And
he did, and Paul and I have been repeating it ever since because it was such a perfect statement for what we went through. And I have to tell you this before I let you go. Once the shutdown happened and everybody had to switch from physical events to virtual, there were a few that happened before Pega, and I'll just say it, they were awful. Pega was the first. PegaWorld 2020 was the first industry event by a vendor that was good. It was because of Don being able to already start to make that transition from theatrical to cinematic in the presentation. You're right. They shortened down everything. They added a little, you almost felt like a little bit of a TV show aspect. And I think that's the kind of stuff you need when you're going virtual, because the things that work when there's 10,000 people in the audience, it's great. If you're sitting in the audience, you can feel all that.
Yeah.
You can't feel that when you're sitting in your own room with like 5 different screens that could take your attention any which direction. But you guys got it right first, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Well, I hope I don't let you and Paul and others down by pumping this up. But Don and our whole marketing team really put the cinematic jazz together for this. It's really from the opening visuals with Don through to the end. I'm excited for you guys to see not only just the event, the cinematic showcase, but the content and the clients. It's gonna be good. So why don't we do this? Why don't we follow up? I follow up with you and Paul after the event and see how we did.
That sounds like a plan, man. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about this morning. And I almost feel like I have to ask this last question. It's totally, just a standard for me. Do you have a favorite NFL team?
Go Browns! Woo, woo.
All right, that's cool. As long as I see you're working up in PegaWorld, which is around that Patriots fandom. I am so glad that you are not a Patriots
fan. Heck no. I'm from Cleveland, Brent, and I've suffered almost my entire life of a losing team. Last year, getting through the first round of the playoffs, we all have our eyes set on the Super Bowl this year. Oh, and by the way, the NFL draft is this Thursday, and where is it? Right here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Awesome. That is great. And I think you guys, you could do it. I could see this.
We got Jadeveon Clowney 2 weeks ago to pair up on the other side of Myles Garrett. We filled up the backfield. We got the dynamic duo running backs of Hunt and Chubb. We've got OBJ and Jarvis Landry, Baker Mayfield. It's going to be a good year, Brent.
Man, you are all in. I could already tell that.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's great. All right, man. Thanks again. Thanks so much for taking the time. And I can't wait to see what happens next week.
All right. Thanks, Brent. Appreciate it. And look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And I'll see you guys later this week with whatever shows I got. Actually, later today. Got a show. Talk to you later.